Whether you're just starting out homeschooling or maybe you're just really looking to switch your curriculum, you can click on your computer and look around for about 5 minutes before your head is totally spinning and you are so overwhelmed and don't know where to begin. So let's talk about choosing a homeschool curriculum. If you're new here, I'm Rian, a Christ-following wife and a homeschool mom to 3 boys. Here we talk all things homeschool, and we will learn together how to use our roles as wife, mom, teacher, and homemaker in order to glorify God. So the beauty of homeschool is all of the choices, right? You get to choose to a certain extent what you teach and how you teach it, and you can really just take your homeschool and make it your own and make it fit your family. But really, some of those choices can hang us up. There are so many things out there, so many different styles and so many different, methods of teaching and so many different curriculums themselves. I feel like every year I'm hearing of more and more curriculum companies and everyone's jumping on this bandwagon and trying this new thing and then going to this new shiny thing. And it can be overwhelming even for the veteran homeschool moms. And so this is my 7th year homeschooling. I don't know. I think if you count preschool, this is more like my 9th year of homeschooling. I still feel like I am totally overwhelmed when it comes to checking out new curriculum. And so here's kind of like a guide that I use when I'm trying to find something new. So the first thing to consider is your style. Now, if you're brand new to homeschooling, you may be thinking, a style? There's homeschool styles? Yes, there is. They are not a be-all, end-all, but they can be a helpful tool in figuring out kind of what type of curriculum you're looking for. It can kind of narrow your choices down quite a bit. So there is Charlotte Mason homeschooling, there's unschooling, there's Montessori, there's classical, there's traditional, there's unit studies. I mean, there's like all these different things. And so if you can just hop on Google and kind of look those up, I think there's even quizzes. I don't know how legitimate those are, but just kind of look up those different styles and see which one kind of speaks to you. Now, there might be things that you like about a few different ones. And so you just kind of take out the ones that you're like, no, I would never do that. And just kind of weed it out from there. But that'll kind of give you something more to search on instead of just homeschool curriculum. You can be like, okay, Charlotte Mason homeschool curriculum or unit studies homeschool curriculum, and that will narrow your search. The second thing to consider is what is important to you. And so what is your family's worldview? Do you for sure 100% want a Christian curriculum? Do you really care about having a Christian history and science curriculum, where there's a creationist point of view and that there's biblical history mixed in with, your traditional history? You just have to decide, is worldview really important to me and for what curriculums? And that will also narrow down your search. Then also think about your family culture. Are you super big on literacy and literature and getting your kids to be, really well read? Well, then I would be uber picky about my literature curriculum and my, language arts curriculums. If, you are super into, knowing real history and getting your kids really well versed in history, then I would be super picky about my history curriculum and maybe pick a little more mainstream science or math curriculum. Does that make sense? So just think about what your goals are, what your family culture is, and what you guys really value. And that's also going to help narrow that search. A third thing to consider is the people. So consider your children as individuals. Consider, how they learn. Do you know for sure that they are a kinesthetic learner? Like they've got to touch it, they've got to feel it, they've got to get their hands on it to learn it. Or are they okay just being an auditory processor? Are they okay, I'm kind of a writer, a write to learn, I think is what they're called. I didn't even know this existed. And then when I read it one day, I was like, oh, that's me. I always thought I was kinesthetic, but really all I have to do is write it out. Does that make sense? So I have to read some information for myself. Somebody can't read it to me. I have to read it and then I have to write it and then it sticks to my brain. Anyway, so, kind of know your kid, what's really going to speak to them. That doesn't mean that you can never do, a curriculum that isn't completely their style, but kind of what to stay away from. And also consider their interests. Like, do you have a kid that is super, super into marine biology or whatever it may be? Well, then maybe consider that for science. Or do you have a child who is just super into a certain era in history? Think about those things, what they're really going to enjoy. Now, again, it doesn't mean you never have to do anything that they don't enjoy, because there's going to be inevitably a time when you have to do something they don't like. But that way you can just keep learning a little more interesting. But remember, I said people, not just children. So also consider you as the mom, as the teacher. What is your teaching style? Is it going to be torture for you to pick a Charlotte Mason curriculum where you have to read for an hour a day to your children? Is that just going to ruin your day? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Are you willing to learn a new way of teaching if it comes down to that? A third thing to consider would be the time commitment. You need to look and see how teacher intensive is this curriculum, and how much time do I as the mom have? Do I have a bunch of littles running around that are going to need my attention, and therefore I'm not going to have time to stand in front of my kids and read to them X amount of time, and sit with each of them and do math this amount of time? And if you don't have time for a 6-hour school day because you have other children who need you more, don't pick curriculum that's going to take you all day like that. Also think about your commitments outside of the home. Are you going to need to be gone to swim lessons or to violin lessons or whatever it is that your family does? So think about the teacher intensiveness and the time that it's going to take. And then consider your daily rhythms. Do you know, every day around this time we do this thing? Is that going to interrupt if you have a curriculum that, does this or does that? Just think about what your daily rhythms are and kind of what time you have to devote to homeschooling and how much you as a teacher can devote to it. Because there's curriculum all over the board. There's stuff that's, more self-paced, more self-taught, very independent. There's stuff that is super teacher intensive. And, different subjects, different kids are going to need different things usually. And sometimes this is when you have to consider, is a box curriculum really my best bet? Is it just better for me if I don't have to plan anything, if I don't have to think about it the day before, if I just have to open today's work and just set it in front of everyone and everyone plow through it and knock it out? That works for a lot of people. And so that is going to help you if you were like that. So once you've kind of considered these things, your style, what's important to you, the people that are going to be involved in the homeschool, and the time and the teacher intensiveness of it, then just start doing your research. Look at the curriculums and think, ooh, this one's going to take way too much time, or ooh, this one's not biblical and I would like a biblical science curriculum, or whatever it may be. And you can go through YouTube. There's a ton of if you're thinking of a certain curriculum, I almost guarantee there's some sort of flip through or some sort of, look inside or do a lesson with us out there on YouTube. And if not, there's also a lot of veteran moms that you can ask. Even if they haven't used the curriculum, they might know just a little bit more about it than you do. So don't be afraid to ask around. So this is kind of an overwhelming and potentially costly endeavor, picking new curriculum. That's why I always buy used when I can. But don't be intimidated, and don't think that, once you started something, you're married to that thing. I really made that mistake. Some people have the opposite problem where they're just like, ooh, new shiny thing, ooh, new shiny thing, and they're just jumping all around. I'm not so much like that. I'm more of I started here, I want to finish with this same curriculum. And it's that's not always feasible. Kids change, seasons change, and you kind of have to change with the times sometimes. So if you are a veteran homeschool, let me know, is there anything that I missed? What are some other things that you consider when trying to change curriculum? And if you are a new homeschooler, what kind of curriculum are you looking into? What style kind of appeals to you? And I'm sure that we have some mamas in the comments that would kind of point you in the right direction if you're looking for something new. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye. My kids are fighting. Just kind of look up those quizzes. And so look at the curriculums. So the beauty homes.